This is the AM Club here on MX24 television. My name is Augustine Edem Kobutu Saint. If you just joined us, well, it's time for us to dive into the Lifestyle Daily segment where we talk about pertinent issues here in the country. This morning, I'm joined by some amazing and credible gentlemen here in the studio. We would be talking about some three pertinent issues among, well, a number of issues. This morning, we would be throwing the spotlight on some three issues. We're talking about the highlights or details from the Professor Akosa Committee report involving following the tragic incident that happened on February the 6th, 2026. We're talking about the details of the report. We're asking if we're really looking at a question of medical negligence or a question of emergency or health emergency failures here in the country. We're looking at that as well. We're talking about the ongoing, what I like to call the standoff between the Deputy Attorney General, Justice Rimsai, and then the former Attorney General, Godfred Yeboah-Dame. We're talking about that in relation to the Abdul Hanan case and his wife, because the latest we're receiving is that, well, you must know that the Attorney General has withdrawn the charges, the initial charges, on basis of the discovery of new evidence or fresh findings in relation to the case. Godfred Yeboah-Dame is not too pleased about the move taken by the Attorney General. He says that it is an abuse of prosecutorial power by the AG and his team. We get into the details of that. And then we finally talk about the conversation that has reared its head. What Felix Kwasi-Ofosu provided last week, some 5 days ago, as an oral update, the PDS scandal. We're talking about it. Some 4 persons have been picked up this morning. The latest article I read on the news is saying that law firms are actually unhappy about the arrest of some lawyers who are representing these 4 individuals as well. But we'll get into the details of all these stories and more. Remember, you're always a part of the show, so join us with your thoughts and comments, and we'll do our possible best to read them to the rest of the world. But this time, let's make some money with Telecel Cash. Now, your money deserves the safest home. With Telecel Cash, you're protected every day step of the way. No risk, no worries, no long stories, just peace of mind. Now, all you have to do is dial *110# or download the Telecel Play app now for safe, secure transactions. Telecel Cash, the safer choice. Send a keke. Now, are you ready to showcase your brand at a curated pop-up market experience? East Gardens Exchange 2.0 is happening on the 29th of May and the 30th of May at the East Garden Event Center in East Legon, and you want to be a part of it. Now, this is your chance to connect with shoppers, grow your brand, and be a part of a distinct international marketplace. Now, spaces are limited, so call 024 382 1293 or 024 295 3775 to secure your spot today, or follow the vibe at East Garden Exchange for more details. East Garden Exchange 2.0, curated, distinct, and international. Now, are you looking for a perfectly stronger, healthier, and beautiful or beautifully straight hair without irritation, no on your salon relaxer or retouch days? Then try the new BO16 No Lie Hair Relaxer and thank me later. Well, yeah. The BO16 especially crafted in a 3-in-1 formula that straightens, strengthens, and protects your hair, leaving it with long-lasting smoothness and a radiant shine. It's gentle on your scalp and enriched with shea butter, coconut oil, and olive oil to nourish your hair. In just 3 easy steps, you'll experience the silky smooth hair you've always dreamed of every day. Now choose BO16 No Lie Hair Relaxer for a gentle yet powerful transformation that lasts. That's available at beauty stores and supermarkets near you. Now, the GC brand is always about you. Now, joining us for our big discussion this morning, we'll be talking, like I said, pertinent national issues. I'm joined by Mr. Henry Prince Agoha. He is an NDC youth activist. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. And then a regular on the show, Achulo Baki Abdul, MPP Communications team member. Thank you so much for joining us as well. And then we're joined by Richmond Maunyo Akpa. He is a financial analyst. Thank you, gentlemen, so much for joining us on the show. First of all, let's start off with the conversation from the Professor Akosa committee report following what happened to Charles Amissah on the 6th of February. I'm sure we are privy to the recommendations, but we would go through that in a bit. But let me start off with you, Henry. First off, what's your take on the work the committee has done?
Thank you. Once again, good morning, and good morning to our viewers this morning. This is a very sensitive issue. It's certainly, I believe, it's bipartisan. I don't think there's any NPP NDC side to this issue, despite our affiliations to both political parties and representation on the panel today. And I did go through the recommendations by the committee, their findings, and it's very critical that we resolve this, or we position this issue as a very critical issue in our country currently, because to to get hit by a car on the streets, and your immediate concern by your families would be to get you to a hospital. You get to the hospital and still lose your life because there are no facilities, or there are no equipments to cater for the injured. It's a very tragic situation. Not just one hospital. In this very scenario, three separate hospitals refused to cater for this injured man, leading to the loss of life of a very, very promising young man. It's a very, very, very sad thing for our country to be this old, to be this far advanced in our development cycle since independence, to still be facing issues such as no beds in our hospitals is very bad. And once again, I'd like to speak to the professional conduct of people in our hospitals. Some of these hospitals have people working who have no place in hospitals. The passion for the work, care for human life, to see someone dying and still have the audacity to turn them away. It's very sad, and something that we must address. The committee has made, or has identified certain people who are liable for this loss of life, and I believe that that is one side of it. Aside the infrastructural deficits, the lack of beds and other things, the human resource as well needs to be properly trained. There needs to be improvement at that side as well. So it's a two-part issue: the infrastructural deficit, the human resource problem. People, nurses, doctors in our hospitals need to understand that these are matters of life and death. You make a mistake as a doctor, you make a mistake as a nurse, and someone is dying. Someone's source of livelihood. Children will be fatherless. Children will be motherless in this issue. So they need to. There needs to be proper sensitization for these health professionals on some of these things. You get to some hospitals, the way you are treated, you can be sick. You see people sitting down in OPDs and just sitting there, nurses walking around. There's no sort of care. That's also one side. Then we go to the infrastructure side. We need government. And in this case, the NDC government, my government, needs to look at this very carefully. There needs to be quick action, quick reaction to this issue, so that we don't see more of these issues. And I'd like to highlight that this is not the first one. This is the one that has been quite publicized.
But no, there was one that happened in 2018 where a 70-year-old man died at the Lekma Hospital.
Yeah, so
that also received quite a spectacle for.
Yeah, so those are few instances, but you go to certain places where just guys who are not quite as prominent as this young man would die, and no one hears about some of these issues. It's quite rampant, and we need to look at them. So I believe that there needs to be quick action. Let's look at things. Let's take quite a bipartisan stance against this issue, solve it together. And I must commend our politicians and our government officials who have not quite politicized this as it normally happens in Ghana. I've heard similar concerns from members of both political divide. They're speaking to the issue as it needs to be spoken to. So again, we would like to I'd like to raise awareness about this issue, and we need to treat it as urgent, as critical as we need to take it all as it is.
Right.
So that, yeah.
Becky, I'm coming to you now, and the report, as I can see on the screens, expediting the establishment of the National Emergency Bed Management System fully integrates the Ghana Armed Forces Critical Care and Emergency Hospital into the National Emergency and Critical Care System, making triaging compulsory for emergency patients brought to health facilities across the country, established the National Emergency Care Fund to cover the first 24 hours of emergency services in public and private health facilities. A number of them, 7 recommendations. Baki, looking at these recommendations and the fact that, well, since I started counting, and we did an analysis last week on the show, we brought about 6 cases since 2018. The latest happening about 2 weeks ago at the Mother and Child Hospital in Kaswa. Similar incident, twin incidents, all of them no beds, being turned away from emergency hospital. Do we have hope in these recommendations, given the fact that, well, year in, year out, and I don't like to say this, but year in, year out, when these incidents happen, it looks like a committee set up, same recommendations, but little to no action. Does this inspire hope?
Yes, first of all, let me greet your cherished viewers and use this opportunity to greet my mother and the beautiful wife of my boss, Mrs. Nada Biliju Jinapo Esquire, and also commend her for her good works and for the philanthropic job she's doing for the good people of Damango. On the 23rd of this month, we'll be organizing a health screening at the Damango Saturday market. So I urge all constituents of Damango to go and get themselves checked. That aside, for hope, I think yes, we should have hope, because regardless of the situation at hand, we must find a solution to it. And we must get the problem fixed. You see, this whole conversation, as my brother rightly stated when he started this conversation, is something we should avoid. It should be devoid of politics. It's something that tomorrow can happen to myself, can happen to my brother equally. And I'm sad because Mr. Amissah, may so rest in perfect peace, and my condolences to his family, could have been saved. But the report that came out shows clearly and emphatically that his death could have been avoided, because somebody who was put in ambulances, who was turned away from hospitals to hospitals, who spent about 118 minutes, close to 2 hours, definitely telling us that something could have been done about it. And with this conversation, I think let's broaden it. And I always want to broaden it into 2 aspects. First has to do with the health professionals that we are dealing with. They have to get it and understand. Yes, we encourage them for the good work they are doing for us, but they also have to get it at the back of their minds that taking care of a patient is not you more or less letting it look as if it's a privilege for you to take care of us. No, it's a duty. That's your job. And you have to do that with all modesty and humility. You see, sometimes you go to the hospitals and how they treat patients, it's as if it's a privilege for them to attend to you. That shouldn't be the case. A clear example is this: sometimes these motor riders that we have in this country. And their government seeks to legalize this Okada we are talking about today. It is not anything I want to politicize. You see, when somebody gets to the hospital and is involved in a motor accident, I'm being honest with you, and this issue must be fixed and dealt with once and for all. Immediately you tell them he's a motor rider or is an Okada rider, do not attend to the person. I'm telling you, this is something serious. If you go on the street, you hear it. Immediately they hear he's a motor rider, or they'll say, oh, Munjana Ondao. That shouldn't be the case. When it's an emergency situation, regardless, I think the health professionals must do due diligence by making sure they attend to the person. Secondly, you also have to do with the system and the no-bed syndrome we are all talking about. And this no-bed syndrome, per my investigation and proper check and research, goes beyond just a bed. It's about a system the government has a role to play. And I would say, yes, even though our party has done well when it comes to the health sector, I would say both political parties have failed the country. It will surprise you to note. Last week, I had a conversation on a sister platform where we were talking about 900 babies that lost their lives in 2025.
900 babies.
900 babies that lost their lives in 2025 from the statistics that came out, which could have been prevented, and then they lost their lives because they were lack of tools, especially incubators. And our research tells us that you have a whole region, not even a district, you have a whole region that does not have a single incubator in their hospitals.
And which region is that?
A clear example is the Oti region. So a region like this, without incubators in their hospitals, if you do your checks. This will tell you that if they give birth to the baby who needs an immediate intervention with the aid of the incubator, definitely will lose his life. And this, you cannot blame the health professional. And that's why I say, let's blame two sides. Government has its role to play. Whatever problems it is for us to fix, let's fix it. And I come from the northern sector, and I always speak for my people. If you go there and you are involved in some of these emergency crises, sometimes it's very sad. If your family is not privileged to have money, you might even lose your life. Because the whole of Damango, for instance, where I come from, is just one hospital. And there are a lot of equipment they do not have. So if you're in an emergency situation, they take you to Damango right now, unless you are being referred to Tamale or Bupe. Before they'll pick you from Tamale or Bupe, close to 2 hours. Haven't you lost your life? So I think let's decentralize some of these conversations. Let's make sure we fix the problem, not only in Accra, but let's make sure the other regions, we check the problems evenly and then fix it. Because at this era where Ghana has got into, after independence, we can't still be having conversations about no bed syndrome. So to me, I think, yes, the health professionals, let's encourage them to do their works. Those who are also making sure they mow that organization, let's make sure we fish them out and set a good precedent. And the reason why I'm saying we should set a good precedent is that the 7 people that were named, if truly what the investigation is saying is something that we must go by, and then, yes, all the other party must give them a fair hearing, and then they are found culpable of probably neglecting the man for him to lose his life. Yes, let's make sure any form of punishment that needs to be meted against them is being done so that it will serve as a precedent to the other health workers who are also in the hospitals, so that tomorrow, when somebody is referred to the hospitals, they will attend to them.
Before I come to Richard, on the note of holding the health professionals accountable, there's an argument many stakeholders, or some stakeholders, especially the medical fraternity, is holding, is that, well, we shouldn't necessarily put the blame or solely blame the health practitioner. We should rope in the institutions they work for, i.e., the hospitals that are named in these in this particular report. What do you make of it? Do you think that this should solely be the responsibility of the health practitioners, or we should rope in the institutions they work for?
Yeah, so for me, I would say let's broaden it. Individually, the person has a role to play, and the institution too definitely has some punishment it has to face, so that to serve as deterrent to other institutions that are also in that same field. And you see, the rich investigation they conducted, for instance, what I learned was that it was only one doctor that was available at the moment. So they are trying to tell us a rich hospital, as big as it is.
Rich, we know for years, has had a problem of understaffing.
But that shouldn't even be the conversation we should be having. Are we saying we don't have qualified doctors in this country who are seated at home, who have not been employed? See, some of this conversation, let's not tolerate it at all. Because tomorrow it might be me. They refer me to Rich, and it's only one doctor. And at the time, they said the woman said she was attending to somebody, which there was blood on her hand, and she couldn't have left the person to go and attend to whoever they brought there. So yes, in a point, that woman might be justified. She has the right to go and defend herself. But if truly the whole Rich hospital and the name Rich today, if you mention, has gained, it's only one doctor that was there at the moment, I think it is something that is very, very worrying. And we have to really make sure we fix some of these challenges and then get the system fixed.
Richmond, coming to you, in fixing the problem, we always hear there's no bed syndrome. The no bed syndrome, almost every single year, there are cases. How do we really tackle the issue and make sure that the buck stops with, well, I don't like to say it, but make sure that the buck stops with this particular committee report? We do not see another formation or another case where we have to see a committee bringing up recommendations that really and truly we do not implement.
Good morning to you, and then to our listeners, and then happy Mother's Day to all mothers. First of all, it is very prudent to say that the death of Charles, it's no brainer. It's very disheartening for a young man of 29 years to lose his life due to institutional failures and not due to other preventable factors, but for factors that could have been prevented. Now, I will say that we need to pay close attention to the reason why we are here currently. And it's very important to separate the issues. The issues are: one, what led to his death, the tragic individual case, to he dying. Then we also have to look at the operational inefficiencies in our healthcare system that have equally contributed to that. And then we look at the broader national healthcare system. Now, you could hear my brothers make a very good case, and then I agree mostly with what that they are saying. But the main point is the Ghana healthcare system that we have inherited, is it beneficial to us? The answer is no. The presidency, to the Ministry of Health, to the Ghana Health Service don't have direct control over the day-to-day affairs of most of our hospitals. There are institutional and clinical protocols that goes on there. Now, if these protocols are being evaluated, that's how I agree with my brother, because somebody in the hospital is right there, and that is his job, that is his duty, his responsibility to provide care. And then you turn away a patient on the basis of no bed syndrome. How does it even make sense? Because the reason why the hospital is there in the first place is to provide medical care to patients. Now you have a patient, and then you are saying that because there is no bed, you are turning the patient away for so the abysmal that we have the Rich Hospital, the Police Hospital, and the Kolebu Hospital, 3 big referral hospitals, turning a victim of accident who had been brought in by an emergency vehicle. That should equally inform us that there is no coordination between the ambulance service and our hospitals. And then these 3 referral hospitals that we even have mentioned don't have any coordination among themselves. So we need to look at the broader health system of infrastructure that we have in the country. Successive governments have made investments to put up hospitals. There is the Agenda 111 by the previous government to put up infrastructure to provide care. Now, what we equally need to look at is that when this incident happened, what was the response? Is it just the normal, everybody talks about it, after a few weeks it goes? No, I think it's very commendable for governments on what they have done through the Ministry of Health. They instituted a committee. There was an independent investigation into the cause. Recommendations have been made. And then one of the most beautiful things about this whole issue is the transparency that it has enjoyed.
Right.
Now, do we hold individuals responsible, or do we hold institutions responsible? Far away from that. None of that is going to solve the issue. The issue is, taking Accra for example, why did the incident happen? Basically because we have a very poor system in managing trauma cases. If you go to the Volta region where I come from, there is a habit of, he got an accident through motor. It means he was a reckless rider, or there's an irresponsible behavior attached to it. You see the apathy that the health professional shows to these people. It's very bad. There is urban growth in Accra. Communities are developing, the population is rising. But what are we doing to the infrastructure? Not just the buildings. There is the pre-primary healthcare that recently we saw the influx of machines and then healthcare equipment that are being distributed all around the country. That is a very good step and an intentional step that needs to be commended. There is the Mahama Cares, the Ghana Medical Trust Fund, that is also looking to finance and provide financial assistance to people who are suffering. But it does not solve the response to trauma care that we have. And then I am very grateful to the committee. I saw one of the recommendations that there should be a 24-hour funding, that those who come in for trauma, the first point of contact shouldn't be, where are we going to finance this? No. government needs to take a broader look at this. The whole system is a failure, big failure, because if one life is lost, it means it puts every life of we, the citizens of this country, at risk. And then coming back to the no bed syndrome, to me, sincerely, it makes no sense. It makes no sense to turn away a patient because there is no bed. One of the few things that I have realized is we are quick to take procurement gigs. Let's import beds. Let's import beds. Let's import this. What happened to setting up an institution in Ghana that provides this qualified and then medically recommended beds and distribute it all around our hospitals? We saw politicians making donations of beds to medical facilities, and then it has become the job of members of parliament. Every week, here and there, they are donating beds to hospitals. Sometimes it doesn't make any sense to me because we have a legal infrastructure in place that takes care of the healthcare system in Ghana. The UG Medical Center is there. Are you saying that if this person was taken to UG Medical Center, based on all the good names that they've taken, the accolades in their research, and then they will say that they are turning the person away because there's no bed? Are we saying that if people of the elite or the political class have medical issues and they go to the hospital, they will turn them away because of no bed syndrome? No, there are beds in the hospital. Somebody has decided that no, this person or that person is not qualified to enjoy that facility. And it is very wrong. So we need to acknowledge where the problem is coming from, where we are now, and then what we need to do to get out of the problem, what we need to do to get better. And that is taking a broader look at the whole healthcare infrastructure. Let's put in more effort to ensure that our hospitals are equipped. I'm hearing some babies are losing their lives because of inadequate incubators, a whole region having no incubator. Meanwhile, that whole region has a minister for that region, has a regional health director, all of them enjoying the full benefits that come with their jobs. So how do you tell us, we the citizens that have put you there? Because it is the Ghanaian taxpayer money that is funding all those operations. It makes no sense to say that no bed syndrome is still a matter as of today. No.
Right.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for your takes on that. And because of time, we'll zoom straight into our second conversation. But I just wanted to chip in that the Minister for Health, Kwabena Mintakando, noted that, well, this is not one of the recommendations or reports that would be on his shelf or be in the shelves of the Ministry of Health. He's going to ensure that it's going to be implemented to the latter. So we would wait and see what the recommendations are, especially with the expedited legislation bit of it. When Parliament sits, we hope to see it as part of the other paper business. But now let's talk about what's going on with regards to the Office of the Attorney General and the Abdul Hanan case with regards to the withdrawal of charges against the former Buffer Stock CEO and his wife on grounds of the discovery of fresh evidence. Now, Baki, your party member and the Ghana's former Attorney General says this doesn't augur well with him. In fact, he has described it as an act of abuse of prosecutorial powers by the Attorney General.
Obviously, yeah.
Now, what really? Don't you think that he's putting the cart before the horse? Why is he in a rush? Why doesn't he wait to see the new evidence the Deputy Attorney General is alleging to, and then we can, based on the new evidence, discuss whether or not there are enough grounds for the or there is relevance for the withdrawal of the case.
There is nothing. It's whatever they are saying is surely and obviously inconsequential. You see, when it comes to corruption-related issues, I've always maintained one stance on it. When it's corruption, my personal reservation is that let's make sure we deal with the issues regardless of who is involved. And I will always urge the Ghanaian youth that let's take a strong passion in making sure we fight against corruption, because this is a serious canker that always takes away huge sums of money from us, which could be used to fix this no-birth syndrome we are talking about. Sometimes when you hear the sums of money involved in these corrupt deals or corruption-related activities, it's sad. And that is why I'll always say, times without number, that I'm always against the Attorney General discontinuing most of their cases when their big men were standing trials. They should have gone through the mill and make sure we deal with them to set a strong precedent. Immediately they did that, I knew the fight against corruption is something that we've already lost it. And you see, let me tell you one thing. Fighting corruption doesn't necessarily mean come to the media and come and make a whole lot of noise. You remember Sedinam Tamaklo? Tell me when, for once, have you ever seen the former Attorney General coming to the media to make noise about Sedinam Tamaklo? But we made sure we took her through the processes, and we made sure we jailed her for the money she looted from our market women who were supposed to be salvaged during the fire outbreak at the market. And today, we are just hoping and praying they would extradite her to this country to face jail terms. It's not about coming to media and come and make noise. And we remember warning them that, you see what, if you have a problem with the buffer stock CEO, we do not have any issue with that. You are saying he has been involved in some corrupt-related activities. Take him to the court. That is where, Attorney General, you go and fight your case. But you don't come to the media and come and be engaging journalists, and they'll ask you questions and you'll be speaking as if you are on top of issues. You went to the court, and what happened? Let's tell the Ghanaian people the truth. You remember what Attorney General said before they took this case to court? Remember him when he was telling the Ghanaian people that he has taken his time to conduct his investigations from February. And it has taken them almost a year to gather information and investigate. So as at the time he was going to court, he was fully ready and prepared. And he was having his so-called empty charge sheet he was showing to us. Today, what has happened to that charge sheet? He told us he's not an incompetent lawyer in private practice. And for that matter, he will certainly not be an incompetent lawyer in public service. Yeah. And what is happening today? That so-called charge sheet he took to court, that so-called witnesses they took to court and evidence have been squashed out because they hold no moral standard. When he went to court, he met his colleague lawyers who faced him mano a mano to tell him that all what you were doing in the media space is nothing we can go by. And what happened to that? The High Court squashed it out. And that is why today, because they realized there's failure coming, because they realized they were going to lose the case, quickly they were trying to smuggle in other evidences, which is not the rightful procedure to do that.
Can I come
please, in? When it gets to your time, you can
allow him.
Please.
Because he was smuggling. The High Court has not squashed or thrown out any
thrown out the case. He has just withdrawn.
And then I said, listen, when you listen carefully, I think it will help him. I said the High Court, right, the evidences that were brought before them was squashed out. And if you look at my city City News, on April 30th, they reported it. So what I say? I didn't say squash out the case. Deputy Attorney General went to withdraw the case because they were seeing failure ahead of them. And it's because of the evidences they were trying to smuggle in, which our former Attorney General objected against it. So what are you saying?
And then if
all I am telling you is that if today you came to the media to tell us that you've used 1 year to gather evidences, to tell us that your charge sheet is fully ready and prepared, and for that matter, you are going to the court to go and seek for justice for the Ghanaian people, which all of us were having hope in the Attorney General. And today, all what we can hear and get to know is that you, the same person, you are withdrawing the case just to rearrest the person and come and present a new case. Till when? It's certainly going to be the same failure we are going to have.
Now,
please, you see, in as much as we want to fight corruption, in as much as we want to fight corruption, I was against the fact that he was coming to media to try and create the perception as if some people were already liable of what he was saying without even giving a hearing. The attorney generals who have come, he's not the first person who has taken case to court and lost before. We've had similar instances or issues in this country. But the fact that he's the first person to come to the media, come and paint that perception as if somebody was already guilty without even giving a hearing, that is where we have a problem with. And all I want to tell him is that he has disappointed some of us. The evidence, the new evidences they say they have, certainly I know will not hold, because if you've been able to use 1 year to gather evidences and you've gone to court and today you are withdrawing those, you are withdrawing that case to go and then tender in a new case, I think there's nothing we can have hope in, because it's going to break the public's confidence
I think
in the fight against corruption.
Your time has been overused.
Exactly. Richmond,
I would like,
I'm
to, I
coming
would
to
like
yes.
to come in.
Yes, because I'm thinking what the Attorney General must have found or has found
Even
should be compelling enough.
Even before we get to that side, I would like to respond to my good brother. Nobody has withdrawn any case.
Right.
The charges of the case has been withdrawn.
withdrawn.
And then, to be sincere, we actually need to commend the Attorney General
For what?
because he has shown that he is not persecuting the accused. The basic fundamental principle of criminal jurisprudence is to ensure that the other party has a fair hearing. And then his actions have clearly shown that he is promoting fair hearing and he is not persecuting the accused.
Right.
The accused had been invited,
Lucky.
had been
Allow-
arrested,
Please allow
and then
him-
had
allow-
been
allow-
granted
allow him-
bail.
Allow him make his. Allow him make his
The
submission,
accused,
please.
the accused
Please allow
had
him
not
make
been put in
Okay,
any
that's fine.
cell
I'm
or
just
jail.
reminding him that it's the same
Sure,
Attorney
sure,
General
I understand,
who was-
and I
who
agree
was-
with
who
you.
was creating that. You know, see, the
No,
problem
actually,
I have with the Attorney General is that why would you create that perception?
He did
You get it?
not create any perception. And I don't think it is wrong for the Attorney General to update the Ghanaian people who have given
You can
him
do
the
that after
money.
going to court.
Exactly.
You can do that after taking the person to
But
court.
he's doing that.
When the person is
He's
giving
doing
hearing.
that.
But what did he do before he went to court? Let's
He's
speak to
doing.
the issues.
He's
Don't be
clearly
here.
updating
try to
the
pretend.
Ghanaian people
Please.
on what is happening, and I think that he actually deserves commendation.
For what?
Because the reason being that,
For failing us.
the reason being that, we all say that
We all know that
there should
oral
be
is dead.
accountability.
The
Nobody.
soul of oral has
We
been
have
taken.
not.
You
We
see,
have
if
not
you
even
keep-
come
if
to
you keep
oral yet.
interjecting,
We
we
are-
will make
we
headlines.
have
That's a
not.
part of oral.
We have not even
It's a
come.
part
To, we
of
have not
oral.
even come to whether oral is alive or oral is dead. What is happening
Walking
is
dead.
somebody who had been entrusted with ensuring that farm produce from farmers are being bought on time, strategically stored, and then the National School Feeding Program, which is looking at the nutrition of our younger brothers, is taking a critical look at, is being accused. You are not guilty till you are proven that what? You are guilty. He is being accused. Nobody said he's guilty or not. He is being accused that, look, you have been entrusted to this and that. Over 78 million that was entrusted to you, you cannot account for it. There is a case whereby 69.6 million Ghana cedis, out of the 69.6 million Ghana cedis that was paid to a company, only 20% can be accounted for. Are you saying that because we are saying that politicians shouldn't do ABC and this, we shouldn't hold people accountable? No. If you put yourself in public office, then your accountability must equally be public. You are not in a private office. How do we give you over 69.6 million of the Ghanaian taxpayers' money, and then when it's time to show accountability, you say we are persecuting you? I, for one, think that this current Attorney General is proving to Ghanaians that he is not in a rush. The only reason why somebody will say that oral is dead is because the Attorney General is taking his time. Who says it takes 1 year to do an investigation?
Right.
Where does he say that the timeline to do an investigation is 1 year? No. If you are in a public office, your accountability will be public. He is even lucky that the Attorney General and his team have withdrawn the charges on the case. And then after withdrawing the charges, they are going back to court. Isn't that what we should be proud of? That transparency is being promoted, accountability is being promoted, and the basic fundamental principle of criminal jurisprudence is being promoted. Because he has not been jailed. If you go to China, offense of corruption, the punishment is death. He has not been arrested and thrown in any cell. He is in the comfort of his homes. Only some of his assets that have been seen that the funds that are linked to this corruption scandal have been seized. And he is free walking around. He goes to court to prove his innocence under the comfort of his lawyers. So he's being given his basic human rights. So how do you say that this person that has squandered, allegedly, in this corruption scandal is still enjoying his freedom and the basic human rights that have been accorded to him, and you say Oral is dead? Should we go and be arresting people, jailing them without prosecuting them? No, that is persecution. And the Attorney General has proven that he has seen the difference between those two. So I will not agree with my brother that
I also don't agree with you.
the Attorney General is firing a gun into the air. It's not possible.
You don't say he's lucky as if the Attorney General, out of goodwill, decided to go and withdraw those charges against him. Don't do that.
Henry,
he took it to court and it was squashed out. He took it to court and realized the evidence was
expectation is the Attorney General.
Ask him what was squashed out.
Let me tell you something.
Ask him what was squashed
out.
Hold on.
Because
earlier he said he didn't say it was squashed out. He's repeating the same thing. So ask him what was squashed out. Let's hold him accountable.
Let me remind my brother one thing. If he tells me Oral is not dead, they were the same people who told us in opposition that they were going to retrieve over 20-something billion from Oral. They were the same people. Sam George seated on TV telling us he's aware of people who are moving money to a particular account. Today, where is that account? They should come and tell us. Sam George told us he's aware of people who are building houses in Dubai.
We are speaking to the buffer stock issue.
Please, you created an impression as if you are aware of what you are
for the sake of time.
The Ghanaian people gave you the mandate. Come prosecute those people.
We are speaking to
But the prosecution is going on.
This is why we prosecuted so far.
This is unfair.
Stop making noise.
The expectation of the Attorney General is that, well, he's filing new evidence against the accused in this case. The lead counsel, Godfrey Adame, is crying foul, saying that, well, there's some sort of abuse of power. Do you agree with him?
Well, there is no grounds to call for abuse of power. What sort of abuse is it when a prosecutor withdraws charges? Well, a prosecutor withdraws charges. I don't think that would be the very opposite definition of abuse. If there were a lot of charges or maybe prosecutorial misconduct, then we can speak to this is withdrawal of charges. And the new charges will be submitted based on new evidence. And clearly, there's an indication that, look, the Attorney General might have discovered that, look, what we are charging them for, maybe possibly there's extra amounts or extra sort of looting that has occurred. And this must be encouraged. He spoke about transparency. And clearly, it tells me that he's well rooted in the MPP culture of the discreet prosecutions, of clearing people without public reports being brought out. You are accused and then they go into their meetings and clear you, come out and tell the public without any transparency of that sort. But in this administration has proven very different, where we have regular accountability series, having the Minister of Justice, the Attorney General, coming out and explaining some of these prosecutions to us so that no one feels persecuted. As my brother said, there's no form of malice in this sort of cases being brought against people. There's evidence, there's investigations, and then we go to the court. And then if the court deems you guilty, you are put in jail. It's quite as simple as that. So Godfrey Adame continues to prove incompetent as he did or as he was even in government. In opposition, he's incompetent. In government, he's incompetent because what he's saying clearly, he used to have the top job in this country as Ghana's top lawyer. Well, clearly that's what the Attorney General is representing us in most of the cases. And I'm quite surprised that someone who enjoys the law, someone who loves the law, that this is what he has come to with. He read this report, heard the cases, and then he's come to make this sort of accusation. I'm quite surprised that it's from a very well-respected lawyer like Godfrey Adame. But clearly, it's the propaganda they are seeking to do against the government. But again, we are focused on recovering all loot. The Oral is still alive. It's still going on. And we will not be trapped by the MPP's pressure to make mistakes. Things will follow the process that needs to be followed because there are laws and constitutions that govern this sort of things. And as my brother said, we must commend the Attorney General for following due process. And I believe that both the Attorney General and the Deputy Attorney General have proven to be very, very competent lawyers and doing quite a good job with when it comes to Oral. So Baki, I know what he's doing. I know what his party is doing. I know the sort of thing they are doing.
What am I doing?
Clearly, we can see the trajectory they are on. Yes.
Right. But I would have loved us to go into the last and final topic because, well, one thing that ran through your submissions has been oral, and
Yeah.
then, well, what I saw from Felix Kwachofosu's update was an oral update.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask this morning, well, is oral back with PDS? Because then again, before the 2024 elections, President John Dramani Mahama campaigned heavily on making sure that wrongdoers of or who were involved in PDS were prosecuted or well, the truth was brought to light, and so I really wanted us to go into the conversation. But Richmond, finally, your comments on the conversations we've had this morning, especially on the AG and the Godfrey Dame case. Moving forward, how should Ghanaians approach this? Because generally, Ghanaians are concerned about these kind of issues because it looks like year in, year out, political party after political party, the cycle continues where we see some sort of quote unquote persecution of opposition figures, what the opposition calls persecution or witch hunting. How should we approach these cases?
You see, that's why it bothers me, and then it's a cause of worry. Why someone will say that, who have they arrested, who have they jailed? The Ghanaian legal fraternity and then our whole ecosystem has moved away from all those, the days where people are being persecuted, they are not given fair hearing, their human rights are being abused. We even have the renowned lawyer Chachuti Kata going to prison and all that. Those days are over. We are in a new dawn where we respect human rights. And then it is so disheartening for someone who was our Attorney General. You saw what went on with the whole issue in court on the ambulance case. So how bad it was to a point where a sitting Attorney General would have to be embarrassed to that pedigree. Are we saying that now? No. The whole atmosphere has changed. There is a reset going on. And then that reset is preaching fairness. And it is the same fairness that the Honorable Bufferstock CEO is enjoying. There's a SkyTrain issue in court. There is the Akonta mining issue in court. Isn't it beautiful that we live in a country where their basic fundamental human rights are being respected? Then you have people of the opposition party claiming arrest them, jail them. Meanwhile, if you arrest and jail them today, just a simple invitation to the Economic and Organized Crimes Office. See what goes on. You have the minority leader leading a charge, people sitting down and saying, hey, the people have just been invited to be questioned. But you see the whole reaction, the whole atmosphere, everybody saying this and that. It is very much unfair. I think the Attorney General and then his team should be given the room to work. And I still maintain that if the Attorney General finds new evidence and withdraws the old charges, that should mean that he's taking his job serious.
Right. Baki.
So you say,
In
this one just briefly. You see,
Right.
sometimes I think my brother's stance has to be investigated because how he's speaking and trying his possible best,
Baki, make your point.
to create the impression as if a particular political party always seeks to abuse the rights of humans. You see, let's not have this conversation this morning because if I come to talk about people who have abused humans in this country, does he want us to remind people of some of the histories of PNDC? Some of the things that happened in this country?
He should remind us.
Quickly make your
He-
point.
he's
and
just
let's go.
sitting
He should
here.
remind us.
To talk about research, to talk about if Attorney General, whatever, can withdraw his charges and bring new evidences and all that. Yes, he can do that, but the fundamental question is that what is the public going to have, the hope the public is going to have in the Attorney General? Because if you tell me you've used 1 year to gather evidences and all of a sudden you are withdrawing those charges and you are bringing new evidences day in, day out, the hope the public is going to have in you to fight against corruption definitely would decline. And my
But
brother
the
should know
MPP
that.
used 8
What
years
I want to tell my brother is that
investigate the former president on the Airbus scandal. They used 8
the
years and found nothing.
The soul
How do
of-
you compare
the soul-
8 years
please,
to 1 year?
I allowed him to talk. Please, control him. The soul of oral has left its body. Oral, as we speak now, is a walking dead body. And definitely, oral cannot stand. Mark it here. Mark my words here. Oral is definitely not going to whitewash. The Attorney General, you are saying, has performed badly. Yes, has been able to jail one of your corrupt, how do you call it, CEO, said Namtamakulu, who looted our mothers.
So which
money
jail is Tamakulu
to
right
make
now?
sure who looted our mother's money over 90 million.
But
to
we are now
jail is
extraditing. We are now
to support- I
extraditing her
just
to
said
come
come
continue her.
Which jail is she?
you said you have to extradite her to come. Why didn't
But
they
we-
jail her in this
you said
country?
you
She
did
has
jail
been
the-
jailed or has not been jailed.
So
When
which
she
jail
comes
is she?
back,
jail
she
or
will
not?
So
continue
which
her.
jail is
Yes,
she?
what am I talking
Yes,
about?
yes.
Please.
Which jail is she?
Be on top of issues.
But which
You
jail
see,
is she?
From the way
because-
Are you
because-
jail somebody who is
because-
somewhere? How do you jail someone and the person is not in jail?
She has been taken to court,
Uh-huh.
right? And she has been prosecuted and jailed.
To which jail?
She's yet
She has
to be
been sentenced.
extradited into this country
Okay.
to fail a jail sentence.
Okay.
So you don't sit here and create the impression because you are putting on a particular political party lens in the name of an analyst to come and join your
But you
colleague
don't do
here
business.
to make no, please.
Don't do
That's
business.
definitely what my brother is doing. Which research is he talking about? What research? There is no research happening in this country. And he's aware.
I think, to briefly summarize, I think the
Come to say the same
NPP,
thing he said. You what? You what?
My brother-
Allow him, please.
Okay, let him talk.
my brother Baki and the NPP, I think should have very little voice when it comes to corruption, because in their 8 years they have a very poor track record of prosecuting corruption, and after the 8 years, we found out through investigations, through reports, that in those 8 years, what they've done entirely was to loot, as in the words of Sam George, they
evidence
didn't
you
loot
He's
the
even quoting
coffers.
Sam George.
I have
They
barely
didn't
1
loot
minute.
from the
I have
coffers.
barely 1
They
minute
took
to wrap.
all.
Well, he
They
can't
stole
go Sam
the
George.
entire coffers. So, and again, we are finding our way in this government to retrust some of these government institutions. They need to give them the space
Thought
to
you
work.
say you support what your brother is
The
saying. What is Sam
public,
George?
the public is
doing what?
learning to trust some of these government institutions again. So you guys need to calm down and give them the space to
Just
work.
learn
It's
and
quite
learn.
simple.
Okay.
Yes.
So calm down and learn.
So three principles of making sure we fight corruption. Shortly before we go, first of all, is making sure
Thank you so
yes,
much.
as they said, they should investigate and prosecute corruption-related activities. And two, we should make sure all the loot you are talking about
If
should be
you-
recovered.
if
And
you-
I'm
lastly,
grateful
let's
for
make
your
sure-
time
let's
this
make sure
morning.
we end corruption.
Richmond
You-
Maunyo
you-
Akpa is a
encouraging-
financial
you're
analyst.
encouraging the
Gentlemen,
former
gentlemen,
finance
please.
Listen to
come
him.
back.
Listen to him.
Thank you so much for your time. Richmond Maunyo Akpa is a financial analyst. Thank you so much for joining us. Prince Henry Agoha is an NDC youth activist. And then Achulo Baku, Abdul Baki is the NPP communications team member. Guys, that's our show for you this morning. Thank you so much for being a part of it. Remember that the conversations continue. So join us with your thoughts and comments, MX24GH on all platforms. And remember to be abreast with the news on our website at mx24online.com to come your way same time tomorrow. My name is Augustine Adam Kobi to Saints. Do have a great day.